Well, hello there and welcome to another interview with me, Jack Lucas Caffrey. Now today, my guest is a news reporter. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Teresa Mannion. How are you doing today?
Great, Jack. How are you?
Just woke up.
Okay, I'm not long up myself.
Well, hopefully we'll wake each other up during this interview. So, firstly, what I thought would be a good question to start off with is, how did you actually become a journalist?
Well, in a very roundabout way, not in a sort of traditional path through, say, journalism school and local newspapers and on up to national print and then into broadcasting. That was, say, from my vintage, it was the usual approach. I actually was a children's television presenter. I did media communications, not journalism. And it was in Rathmines. It was then called the College of Commerce. I think it's now, it's got a new name, I just can't think. But I did a degree in communications, and that part of the course involved doing a placement, which I did in RTÉ. I went into the radio centre. I was very young, I think it was about 20. I did a few sort of vox pop type jobs with Papa Ram. It was a Saturday morning show for kids on 2FM, presented by Ruth Buchanan and Barry Lang. And then I worked on a few RT Radio 1 more serious programs like Women Today with Doireann Green. And when I was in doing all that, it was my final year in college. Lo and behold, an ad came up in the RT guide. There was no internet. Looking for TV presenters. So I applied and I got shortlisted for the audition, and I went along. Didn't know what was going to be expected of me. Just threw myself into it, hadn't a clue, no experience, no smoothness really. But I did have to put a snake around my neck in the audition. And I wanted the job so much that I wrapped that snake around me and I nearly stroked the snake to get the job. And then I had to do some make and do stuff, which was really bad. It was abysmal. But I think they liked the chaotic nature of my make and do, because really they're looking for a presenter, not a sort of great DIY person. And then I think we were shortlisted to 6 people. And then out of that, there were 3 presenters, myself, Mary Dinan and Peter Mulrine, and that was the start of Youngline.
Oh, so talk to me all about Youngline.
It was a children's television program, went out once a week, and it was repeated on RT2 television at the time. We had a dog as well called Tansy. Tansy had to audition too. She didn't just get the gig automatically. She had lots of tricks and she was a very clever dog. So she was with us all the time. And we had a real mix. It was a good magazine kids show. It was really popular. We used to put a pop video up every week, the latest pop video. We did make and do. We went around the country. We did a cycle from Cork to Dublin on tandem bicycles for the guide dogs for the blind. That was huge, and we cycled with the McQuaid cyclists. Yeah, so we had professional help the whole way. Though I remember there were times I got into the van and snuck a few hours sleep when the camera wasn't running, you know. But then that was a big program for me. It was a huge part of my start in my broadcasting career, because we won a Jacobs Award for that program. And if only I thought you'd be asking me about Youngline, I would have got it from in the other room there, and I'd have held it up for you to show you, but not to worry, another time. So that Jacobs Award was it was our Oscar. And then after receiving this big accolade, we were axed. Our show was over.
What?
Which is the nature of showbiz, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
So the show came to an end. I was on the dole for a while, and then I went off to America. My sister was, after winning a modelling contract on the Late Late Show, and she was off modelling in Manhattan, and I went off and joined her and started doing freelance reporting there. And then while I was waitressing in a restaurant in Manhattan, I got a call again from RTÉ. They were setting up a new show, a science program, and would I be interested in doing that? And I said, well, now, you know, I'll have to give that a lot of thought. I was hedging my bets here to try and get them to commit to me before I left Manhattan, which I was always going to do anyway. I had just got a Donnelly visa, so I could have stayed. But so yeah, they brought me back over to RTÉ, and I presented this science program. I was the non-scientist person on it. I forgot to say that before I went to America and before I was on the dole, I did a few other summer programs for children's television as well, but they were just short summer gigs. And one program called Blockbuster was a live summer show with the presenters of Anything Goes. Do you remember Angus McAnally? Just did those names ring a bell?
It's kind of, just about.
Anyway, he was huge, and he works in Radio 1 now. So we co-presented this show. So yeah, children's television was a big thing for me. I never saw myself ending up in news. I was very much into programs and presenting and having the crack and being out on the road doing all sorts of mad, crazy escapades. So I was one summer again. Programs were contract by their nature, you know, and you'd work and then you'd be finished and you'd be wondering, was a show going to come back? And as I got the science program Zero, it was called Zero, and while I was wondering would it return, I just put my head around the door of the newsroom in RTÉ and asked who the head of news was, and he was a big Kerry man called Rory O'Connor. And I just, any summer work. I mean, I was just chancing my arm really, because I didn't have a background in journalism. I had a background in children's television. But he said I had walked into him at the right moment. He was looking for some people to pick up some of the additional work they needed on a magazine program in the newsroom that summer. So the rest is history. I went into RTÉ newsroom, and a couple of years later, I went for a full-time television news journalist job, and I got that job, and I've been with the newsroom ever since. Yeah.
And since you were in the newsroom for a quite long time, what was the work environment like when you first joined the news, and what's it like now? Has it changed slightly or whatnot over the years?
It's changed massively on so many levels. When I worked in the newsroom back in the day, you'd walk in up the spiral staircase in RTÉ newsroom, and first thing you notice is that there's this like a cloud of cigarettes and all that. it was back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and everyone could smoke. And you know, there was a time when journalists couldn't write a line of copy without lighting up, and you know, it sounds very stereotypical, the hack at the keyboard banging away with the flag in their mouth, but it was such a different environment. And of course, you didn't have the internet. We had if we were researching an article, we'd go off over to the RTÉ library and get microfilm and put kind of reel it up and find the article you're looking for and photocopy it. It was a very painstaking, tedious process to try and find out the background to a story. I mean, what we do now compared to what we did then, it's just unreal. Technology has changed everything, and it's amazing, but it's also quite relentless. It's just with you 24/7. I mean, the online part of the news operation now is massive. I mean, you know, you're working for television news bulletins, which are hugely important. The flagship Sticks One and the 9 o'clock news, Morning Ireland. You're on a big story. Every platform wants you. But online, I remember when online was a little operation in the corner of the newsroom with a handful of people. Today, it's a massive sort of central part of the whole operation. It's where we roll out everything very quickly. The whole sort of approach is digital first now. So when you're working on a story, you're all the time thinking for online as well, trying to file a few lines to them, get photographs on your camera phone, while you're also gathering content for your television news bulletins. So it's massively changed. The way everything is instant. I mean, back in the day, before my time, they used to shoot everything on film, and the film would come up on trains to Dublin, and there'd only be a little bit of visual material for the 9 o'clock news. So you had like Maurice O'Doherty and Charles Mitchell, the stalwarts of RTÉ News back in the day, sitting on 2 chairs with a table and just reading scripts. That's all the news was. I mean, it was still news, don't get me wrong, but it was there's been an absolute 360-degree transformation of how we do news gathering now, and how everything is just so fast. I mean, look what we're watching, the war in Ukraine now happening in real time. I mean, that's just incredible, you know. So yeah, I've seen all the big changes that have taken place over the last couple of decades.
And speaking of such news like the Ukraine attacks, which are quite terrible, when you finish like a more serious day in the job, do you find it hard to shift your mind off the news, or do you leave it at work?
It depends. There are times when it's very hard to leave it behind, especially stories that are very tragic. Or you may have to go and speak to a family after some awful tragedy. Maybe there's been a drowning, maybe there's been a fatality with a car accident. Maybe they're looking for information for somebody that's missing in their family. Those stories are you to approach them very delicately and sensitively. People are often quite numb, but they also have to go with you on the day of a story breaking, because it won't be in the news the following week. Do you know what I mean? And we've got to go with it as a journalist and gather the information and make sure we're factually correct and be sensitive to the nature of the story we're dealing with. And you're very focused on the job, writing up the copy, getting it accurate, getting the clips, finding the people who are central to the human interest story. I'm thinking human interest particularly because they're the ones that stay with you. And then it's only when you're driving home on your own, maybe in the car. It could be in the car. Like I'm on the road all the time because I cover such a big area, so I could be driving doing round trips at 3 hours in an average day. And then you're just thinking about the kind of the sheer awfulness of what you've just seen and heard. What people you see raw grief very up close and personal, and it does stay with you. Yeah, I mean, it's not like frontline emergency crews and what they see, but it's not too far off in terms of still having to go into very immediate, visceral situations, you know.
Little great insight there. I'm glad you shared that, because I don't think a lot of people know that aspect of the news for sure.
No, because what you see at the end of the day is an average minute, 1.5 minutes is a standard news report duration. 1 minute 40 seconds, they're being generous when you want extra time for your report. Seconds is what we deal in, seconds. If you get 1 minute 50 seconds to 2 minutes, that's a massive amount of time to get on the bulletin. So everybody's vying for time, and stories are breaking, and the story that you're on might end up dropping down the bulletin as the day progresses, or it gathers momentum and becomes bigger. And if it's a really big story, and if you've spoken to somebody who's given you a really heartfelt interview, and you know you've got really powerful material, that's actually helping the story, and it's you know that is making it a multi-layered, stronger story for your audience, then you will speak to your news editors and ask for more time. And it's a constant battle for time every single day. Even quiet news days start off quiet. Even as I'm speaking to you now, I will be going off to cover the Ordesh of Ireland's oldest Irish language organisation, Conor na Gaeilge. Now that would be more of a feature, if you like, for us. It's I will look at what they're doing to promote the Irish language, what sort of what their main goals are at the moment. I'll talk to, so I'll go to see an Irish language band in Ayr Square who are getting ready for the big Seachtain na Gaeilge Irish Language Festival. So I'll be doing all that today. But chances are, when I come off this Zoom with you, I could end up on a completely different story. Something could be breaking as I'm talking to you right now. Or I've also put out some, I've cast my net at the moment to ask school principals and people in Galway Mayo if they know of, say, Ukrainian families here who have parents in that back home and might want to talk to us or would be open to speaking to us about the concerns they have watching their country being destroyed from afar. So that's going on at the back burner. The Conradh na Gaeilge story is a marking in Galway, which I think is a good public service report to do. But if something overtakes it, it will be squeezed. It'll be covered by our sister channel, Nuach, anyway. But we want to do it as well because it's an important public service part of our remit, you know. So that's where I'm at. So we're always juggling lots of balls here, always going through lulls and then frantic activity. It never happens in a nice paced way. Usually by 4:30 on a Friday, that's the worst. Massive things happen and change. And, you know, people wouldn't believe this, but the Angelus bells give you an extra minute when you're really up against the clock, still putting the final touches to an edit or that might be in the part 1 of the news bulletin. We are quite often still working on the stories while the Angelus bells are ringing and the presenters are good evening and welcome to news. Honest to God, it's a big movable feast that's going on. There's an army of people working behind the scenes. It doesn't come as a pre-packaged, perfectly presented parcel. It's always a movable feast, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, but other days it's quiet, you know. I mean, everything chops and changes. You have to move very quickly and you have to be able to think quickly and turn stuff around quickly. You know, this phone, I mean, the iPhone has just changed our job dramatically. We work with satellite vans to get to places with them, you know, where we would have very bad broadband, and the vans are amazing, work with great crews that take us to all sorts of places in remote parts of rural Ireland, and we can get the material up through the satellite vans. But more and more, these phones have the technology that when that's equivalent to, say, when the satellite vans first came on stream, they were a massive introduction to the world of news broadcasting when they came on stream in the 80s. And they're still very much a big part of our operation. But all the time, the technology is advancing so rapidly that the very fact that I can go on this phone and go live into Morning Ireland and get a HD top quality studio sound is phenomenal. Because of apps that you know that RTÉ give us, and we just I can do my audio straight into this phone. I can capture video. I can tweet. I can do everything on this, which is just, it is really truly remarkable when you think of how I started out, where we shared a couple of massive big dinosaur phones in the newsroom and we had to sign them back in, and we had to do everything on landline phones, and we just had to kind of run around and, you know, be down Boreens trying to find the latest news on some murder and then trying to find a phone box to telephone in your copy. You know, now you do everything on the phone and you just email it to the news desk, and it's been incredible. But at the same time, the fact that you can do everything with technology means everybody thinks that they're journalists, and citizen journalism has to be kind of watched with caution, because I think the fact that we have instant news gathering by everybody on their phones can also mean that we don't know the sources. We don't know if it's correct or not. Everybody is a journalist now, and I think we should be kind of more than ever be sort of grateful for good investigative journalism that's done in a very sort of impartial and accountable way. That's done within the old rules of journalism still apply, even if we have technology that's just changed the whole landscape of journalism. It's more important than ever, I think, that you listen to trusted sources.
Definitely. And speaking of online and all that, which you were speaking about earlier, one thing that went very viral online was your Storm Desmond report that you did many moons ago. What was it like doing that particular report?
Oh, God. Oh, that was 2015. And I mean, Jack, you're of the whole social media era and the sort of flash in the pan viral videos. Why? Please tell me why something that was done 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Why is it still so huge? I mean, it does not go away. Every time there's a storm, it's back. And it gets more followers, and I get more rain jackets and umbrellas, and I'm memes, and I'm everywhere. And I think, why are they not sick of it? What am I to say? But look, having said that, it could be worse things to be kind of viral for. It's all good fun. I never get abused. I just feel the love. I was down that day, a weekend day, it was Saturday, I think. I was asked to go somewhere where you could kind of see how rough the seas were and how high the winds were. So we're better than Salt Hill Prom, but it was absolutely off the scale. We went live, and we did, it just seemed to be even more torrential downpours, gales coming in off the Atlantic Ocean, and I could hardly hear Uno Hagan, who was the Newsread Dublin studio, and I had the earpiece on my ear. You know this fake thing, be like this. I could barely hear, and I thought they probably cut away from me at this stage, because it was like being underwater. So I was shouting. I didn't even know I was shouting, and afterwards, and I was like looking at it through my fingers, going, "Oh my God!" And then suddenly I was trending, and the next day I was working again in Mail, also doing the weather, and I still didn't realize how big it had become. And then I walked into, after I did the 6 o'clock news the next day, I walked into a local cafe. Myself and the crew were grabbing a bite, and everyone started standing up and clapping. And I said, what's going on? I didn't, because I had been working non-stop, I wasn't actually sitting at home kind of scrolling through social. And then all my nieces and nephews and people a lot younger than me were kind of going, oh my God, you're all over my newsfeed. Oh my God, oh my God. And then it just started to snowball. Then suddenly there was TV reports being done in the States and Australia. And I spent a whole day on the Monday doing back-to-back interviews with Breakfast TV in Australia, reporters in America, CNN. They just all went really big with it, and of course every channel in Ireland wanted it. And then the guys in Dingle made the CÉILÍ remix, and that became massive. And then one day he door with this Dingle gin saying, I'm sorry. He just arrived going. And I said, it's fine. I actually like the CÉILÍ remix. It just seems to spawn all these underground creatives in their bedrooms, turning out the most amazing kind of funny stuff. I was going to say blown away. Oh my God. But anyway, do you know what I mean? I've been really impressed by the talent and creativity of young people and what they can do in their bedrooms or their garages with me as their main character. And the whole TikTok thing, I mean, I'm not a TikToker, but I obviously know lots of people who get in touch with me. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? And there was one, you know, when I don't know, Leo Varadkar on St. Paddy's Day, he was in the White House, and he put out a video just telling us that, you know, this was a serious pandemic, and mentioning, and this guy on TikTok cut between himself on the sofa watching this because the Taoiseach used the words unnecessary journeys deliberately. He had a speechwriter that included. So this guy on TikTok made a really funny video cut between me and the Taoiseach, and so people were sending it to me. And it was just amassing kind of hundreds of thousands of views. And it was so funny. I couldn't believe it. And I realized that TikTok is a very sort of it's flavor of the month or whatever, isn't it? It's a platform everybody wants to try and make a breakthrough, more so than Instagram, is it? I think, because I keep getting told I'm all over TikTok.
And one of the memes that was very popular that you forgot to mention was the stop sign meme, where a stop sign hit your face.
Here in Blackrock and Salthill, both today and yesterday.
Now, many people, even to this day, think that that is real. Can you confirm whether it is or not?
No, oh my God, that is so many people, including 50 Cents and all of those, oh God, name escapes you, the guy that in America that were asking, did that really happen? The stop sign was massive. It was a guy in Dublin that actually made that. He's a videographer. His name is Gerald. Anyway, he was the creative genius behind that had half the world thinking it was real. It was so massive that when I did Dancing with the Stars, as a result of all this crazy stuff, I became an ambassador for the Road Safety Organisation, and I was asked to do Dancing with the Stars, and I did a dramatic reconstruction of my own viral video with the tango, and we had a wind machine blowing my ball gown, and we had me in a jacket, and I don't know, that was the first dance we did, and it was brilliant. It's my favourite one to this day. And John Nolan was the professional dancer with me, and he said, we've got to incorporate the stop sign into the dance routine. And we did. Towards the end, we just got them to throw the stop, and we did a twirl with the stop sign. And it was I thought, really, do you really want to do that? But he's a lot younger than me, and he said, no, the stop sign is massive. And so it was a funny part of our tango, very, very different. It's still huge. The stop sign still kind of pops up all the time, you know. And then of course lots of people have done sort of staged reconstructions, and it also, weather reporters all over the world now go into the worst possible conditions and stand there blowing like scarecrows in the wind because of what I did. But I didn't do it on purpose. I never meant it to happen. We were live when everything just, the heavens opened again. So I guess at some level, if you aren't trying to go viral, there's something very authentic that's happening in the moment that just resonated with people. And yes, I will always have don't make unnecessary journeys. That's mine for life. And thank God it's not offensive. I'd hate to have something follow me for the rest of my life that was actually, you know, really a big cross to bear. This isn't. It's funny. Everywhere I go, to this day, I'd say at least half a dozen times a week I get asked to do a selfie or not to make unnecessary journeys or you know, just you know, what sort of weather is it today? And it went from age 4 to age 94. So I became known right across all age groups. So
Well, I remember when I was in RTÉ with my granddad, and I will link this video because it's absolutely hilarious. I was like 11, I met you in the canteen, and I just wanted a picture, but you were like, oh, do you want the unnecessary journeys? It was like you were sick of doing it because of how many times you did it.
Oh no.
No, not like sick in a bad way. It was more like really appreciative, but like, oh my God, here we go again.
But I can't explain it to you. For the months following it, everywhere I went, whether I was working or in a social capacity, it was like I was Beyonce or something. I was arriving into places and there were queues would just form for selfies. And it was overwhelming. I mean, why does everybody want this? Why? I was at I was in Mayo and a meeting with some friends in Westport, and we were in Matt Malloy's pub, and then suddenly there was a hen party in Matt Malloy's pub, and they heard I was there. And Marty Morrissey was also in Westport that night. He'd been covering the Castlebar Mitchells. So we were in the nightclub in Westport. And next thing was, the whole nightclub was like, the DJ's going, we've got Teresa in the house and Marty in the house. And then it was just, it was hours of people just queuing up for photographs and selfies. And it went on for months. I mean, it was phenomenal. You think, why do people find this so exciting and alluring and wanting to have a piece of me? And maybe it's just that you don't see something like that happening very often on the news. You know, you don't see that level of of dramatic presentation. Well, having said that, now some of my colleagues do get picked up a lot, and there's memes about them as well. It's not just me. People get sort of singled out for a particular way they deliver something, or them maybe a mannerism, you know. But some people have to live with something that may be deeply embarrassing, or they might just, you know, feel, oh God, mortified. Whereas I've kind of got used to mine. I can live with my advice to people not to take necessary journeys, you know. Yeah. So there you go.
And you did mention Dancing with the Stars a little bit earlier. So what was it like actually appearing on Dancing with the Stars and just having a bit of crack with that? And where did you actually place on the show?
I was 8 weeks in the show. I think I was the 5th to be knocked out. Yeah, so it lasted for 8 weeks. It was, I'd never danced, never even done the Irish dancing. So I was one of the old, myself and Des Cal were sort of the golden oldies, but it was an amazing experience. I couldn't unsee the email when I was asked to do it. It was the scariest thing, way scarier than being live on the prom during Storm Desmond. It was, I'll never forget feeling like jelly before you go on live. And it was such a massive audience. The whole country seemed to be watching it. But it was such a buzz. It was a very high-end production. Everybody was just lovely to work with. You were in this crazy Technicolor bubble, but we were the first. So we were the, you know, the guinea pigs, if you like. I mean, we didn't know really what we were letting ourselves in for. Whereas now I think people who are doing it have 5 years to look back on and see, you know, how it actually works. That said, I think what people love about it is the mixture of ability, the mixture of ages, the mixture of personalities, and the shock every week, because everyone thinks one person is definitely going to go and then they're not gone. It's not just a dance program. It's human interest on so many levels, and it is seeing people very vulnerable. I think people love watching people put themselves out of their comfort zone. I certainly was out of my comfort zone, but yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, sounds great. And
do you watch it?
Yeah, I did. I saw the stop sign one. I saw that. Yeah, and I remember going, oh my God, there she is again on the TV dancing.
No, my sons came, and the night I was knocked out, I said, you gotta come and see it. They weren't hugely into it. They were supportive, but the camera was on them watching me, and the two of them were like this. Oh, they just couldn't. They were getting it really sort of getting teased in school, and teachers were kind of coming up and giving them little elbows. Said, "Oh, saw your mummy on the dance last night," and they hated it. Sure, isn't life is all about colour and variety, isn't it? And just having different experiences. And it's been the story of my life anyway. Every day, you never know what's coming down the tracks, you know.
Yeah. And was there any other highlight in your news career or just TV career in general that doesn't really have to be Storm Desmond per se?
I remember back in the day, I did a 3-month placement with CNN in Atlanta, and that was amazing. That was a great experience. I got to do a little bit of sort of help the producers doing field work on the road, and maybe doing a few interviews or vox pops, and it was just great watching how they do it. And they were just, to me, like so mega and of the moment, and meeting people like Larry King and everything was great, you know. So that was a wonderful experience. In terms of stories, gosh, there's been so many. I mean, I suppose, you know, you're meeting such big names all the time. You're talking to the Taoiseach, the president, you're talking to visiting heads of state, but also I think some of my most memorable moments or stories that have had a lasting impression on me are generally with just super ordinary day heroes, people who are just quietly getting along with stuff. They may be doing something amazing for others, or they may have had a really, as I say, an awful tragedy in their lives, and somehow they pick themselves up and they show resilience, and out of that they do something else. I'm trying to think of somebody in particular that would have impressed me, but it's been so many. But it's often the everyday heroes, the local stories, the little gems you pick up in the course of doing good, solid journalism, where you're wearing out the soles of your leather on your shoes, and you're not sitting with, like I am now, with phones and laptops. I still believe being out in the field, embracing what's around you and letting a story evolve is still the best way to do journalism. Good original, strong journalism. You know, you have to be physically out there, I think. Apart from watching the wires and writing up the latest press releases, there's nothing more fulfilling than creating your own material and having it, and then you share that into yours. And then I actually this week now I did a story with Catherine Corliss, because she's just got her legislation through to excavate and the excavation of the bodies of the June babies is going to go ahead. And when I was out there this week, she just happened to have her 7 grandchildren there, and she just mentioned in passing that they were in the playground, and they'd come to her from different parts of the country for their midterm break. And I just knew instinctively, I thought, oh, bring them, let's meet your grandchildren. So then she brought them into the little the site of the memorial site of the June babies, and one of the little boys, the youngest of them, was in her arms, and he leaned in towards her neck, and I got some photographs with my camera phone, and I tell you now that the impressions of that tweet with her grandchildren, and just one Irish tweet, is actually well over 500,000 impressions and thousands of retweets and so many quotes. That was original. We've seen what Catherine Corliss has done as a local historian, as a mother, and as what the campaign she's actually, you know, set up by herself and took on this mammoth task to have those bodies exhumed and given proper burials. That's going to happen now, and it's going to be a multi-million pound operation. But she's like this single everyday hero who took it on, and now had the government announcing the other day, headline news story, that this is all going to happen. That to me is a great example of somebody on the ground who has no big contacts, is never sort of interacted with the media before, doesn't have loads of minders, doesn't have people writing press releases for her. She did it all herself, and her story has been amazing. And yeah, the grandchildren this week was a new angle, because we've never seen her with her own little people, if you like, and that just resonated with me. It just resonated, and I took those photographs. I kind of thought, this is different. This brings a whole new layer to the story, and I was right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does sound really good. Yeah, and As for myself, I usually sometimes do prefer the sort of smaller interviews you do than, some of the big name ones I've done have been great and all that, like yourself today. I've really enjoyed the interview.
You've a lot of editing to do now in this.
Maybe. But I do agree. Some of the smaller people who wouldn't really get a platform, that can sometimes be very rewarding to do an interview of that as well.
Oh, for sure. Her grandchildren absolutely adored seeing themselves on the news. They were used to seeing their granny on the news all the time, but they sing themselves. She said they got such a kick out of it. I love interviewing kids, actually. I think when you get a child that's not self-conscious and forgets themselves in the moment, you get the most beautiful, pure, uninhibited clips that just they again, it's that sort of wonderful moment when you see something on TV and you think, oh, it's not in any way staged, it's not scripted, it's just happens. And children, most of them are very shy. The minute you're chatting away to them and the camera comes, they just sort of lose their tongue and they start nodding and they answer, yeah, no. So when you get the little gems, and I'm not talking about stage school kids, just sometimes it's just a child will just open up and forget themselves on camera, and that's wonderful. I'm going to do a story on Monday actually with some kids in the Claddagh National School in Galway. I'm trying to set up for a while. It's occupational therapist students in NUI Galway have a program where they're going into mainstream schools and they're showing kids how to operate devices for people with disabilities, and it's all about kids with disabilities are your friends. Let's see how we can make sure that their wheelchair gets around a corner. Let's make sure I know how to operate that chair, or how, say, somebody who has sensory difficulties, I'm going to film this on Monday. The kids are going to put big gloves on and try and open sweet papers with gloves to show them what it's like from the perspective of kids who don't have they have these physical disabilities or sensory disabilities, but are still absolutely part of their same school, and let's just find solutions and ways that they can experience the same play and fun as we can, without making them feel special. There's a whole new move away from sort of bringing kids into cotton wool settings and doing one-to-one with them because you've got a disability. It's like put the kid in the wheelchair as part of the basketball game, or let everybody kind of have fun on the trampoline. I think it's a really healthy, holistic, new way forward. It's just a little story that I'm going to do on Monday because it hasn't got any media attention. It's a novel new approach, and I know the kids are going to be wonderful because they'll get so much fun in the playing with all the walkers and the wheelchairs and the gloves, that it'll become very much play, and that's when I will get lovely material from those kids. I know I will.
Yeah, it does sound like good content for sure for a news report. And we could go on all day here because it was really good. But
I'm getting texts here.
I know you have some news to do, so we're going to finish it all quickly with some of the almost vox pop-like questions, very sort of quick-fiery, strange questions that I usually do with various other people. I did these ones with Noel Cunningham only a little while back, and I'm going to do these ones with you. And first one being, perform the hardest tongue twister you know.
It's 33,000 people marched when, as a North Side dub. Having 3 consecutive words with TH has always been a challenge. Or what is it? Strike your tongue between your teeth and pronounce the word thunder.
I've never heard of that one before, so I'll take it. Second one is, how jealous would you be if you found out that your friend got a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X before you?
Wouldn't give a toss. There's a PlayStation 5 in my house as we speak, and I don't even know how to turn it on.
Oh, well, if anyone knows where to get a PS5, just ask Teresa Mannion. She has one.
My sons love PlayStation. They're in their 20s, but it's still a go-to way of passing free time.
And finally, would you screenshot an NFT for no reason?
Huh? I'm lost, sorry.
Ah, sure, don't worry. It's basically, NFTs are like little forms of digital art that you pay for, but the problem with having digital art is that no one really owns it, so you could just screenshot it and take it for yourself.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I had an elderly moment there. NFT. Of course, I've been hearing this, and it's been very much in the news in recent weeks. I can't get my head around it. It's, oh Christ, but it's the emperor's new clothes, isn't it?
It is. In fact, there's someone I know actually who did some of their own drawings and just put them up on Twitter. And like a couple of weeks ago, someone thought it'd be a great idea to, borrow the art and sell it as an NFT. And he was furious, and I wouldn't blame him.
Do you think I should do that? How could I monetize my ridiculous infamy?
Definitely not an NFT, because one, it's very controversial, and secondly,
I'd be fired.
that maybe, and thirdly, there's like very weird environmental issues with this. Like it's something to do with how it's programmed can somehow just generate too much power into computing, and just overall isn't great for the environment. From what I've heard, so yeah, it's you probably have to do a bit of research on it, but yeah, it's the emperor's new clothes, but in the digital world, as you said.
It's the same. It's like, I don't know, it's like 200-year-old bottles of wine. It's like artwork that's locked away in basements. There's a pointlessness about it all. It's a kind of a disgusting product of the Western world, isn't it? I mean, you like an image, whether it's a Vincent van Gogh card, or it's looking out, there's little daffodils in my back garden have just come out today. That's all that matters. It's what you see in the moment, and if that makes you feel all fuzzy inside, then it works. In an experience. I hate monetary value on stuff. I really do, and I hate the way. It's so cynically gratuitous. I hate it. Yeah, sure.
You don't want to go to a modern art museum, that's for sure. Oh my god. It's like these things go for like, I don't know, 500 million, and you look at it and you go, gee, I could just like do a little scribble and that would probably go for the same amount.
Or even, I remember years ago, myself and my friend Eileen Whelan, she's one of my best friends, she's news reader in RTÉ, and we were in London and we went to a Saatchi and Saatchi exhibition, and they had reconstructed Tracy Emin's bedroom. Oh Christ, can you imagine on your worst party night ever, and you just, back in the day, the room was absolutely mank. It was overflowing ashtrays and dirt and rubbish and bottles keeled over, and everything was just ugh. And they'd done it in that like Francis Bacon studio way. You kind of take a room and you recreate every detail, and then you put it on show for everybody. And myself and Eileen were saying, imagine if nobody was looking, we just threw something in on it. Would they know? Would we ruin the authenticity of that? Because I was actually quite appalled that had made it all the way to becoming a statement piece of art. What the heck? There's time, and I think we just have to all step back and say, come on, it's time to call this out,
Yeah. Well, I think we practically did that after speaking about NFTs and art for about 3 or 4 minutes there. So with that, I think we'll leave it there. Teresa, thank you very much for actually coming on and doing this. Is there any sort of last things you'd like to say?
I think it's been great talking to you as well. I think this is the wonderful part of technology, the fact that we can just click and connect. And I think there's far more positives than negatives about the what technology is doing now. I love that we can connect so readily, especially when I think back to how difficult it was when I started out. So that's all good. But bear in mind that there's nothing like collecting information in and making sure it's factually correct if people want to say a career in journalism. The being able to trust good journalists is still really, really important. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm married to a newspaper editor. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit biased, but I just see the work that they do and the way they gather incredible original material and very well researched and written up. And it can be lifted like that, or, you know, it's very hard to keep any stories fresh anymore because of technology. And I sound like I'm contradicting myself because I see all the benefits of technology as well. I think we've got to just going forward try and find a happy medium where good trusted journalism works well with all the benefits of technology. That's it.
And is there any other socials that people can follow you on or whatnot?
Oh yeah, Instagram. I kind of fell into Instagram, you know, so it's not my natural go-to place, but yeah, I sort of sometimes I kind of put stories up and I'm after getting another 10 followers today. So, you know, I'm encouraging more Instagram followers. I'm bigger on Twitter. That's because that's the journalist go-to place, you know. And I think Twitter can be awful troubling, but it can be great for getting the best expert in the world, giving you some definitive answer to something you need quickly. That's what I love about Twitter. And after that, no, but I mean, if anyone could tell me how to make a fortune out of my my unnecessary journeys fame, you know, please let me know, you young people out there.
Yeah, cameo.com. I'll tell you about it after the interview. But yes, Teresa Mannion, thank you very much for coming on. And yes, speak to you soon.
Bye, Jack. Thank you very much.
Yes, and as well as that, I'm also going to link on the video of me and Teresa like 6-7 years ago when I was 11. You'll hear me with this utterly posh English-like accent. It's hilarious. And then, yeah. But anyway, thank you very much and take care.